If you enjoy making and sending love-themed cards that aren't necessarily Valentine's Day cards, then you need to see the latest kits from Spellbinders. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and it is the first of the month, which means the new Spellbinders Kit Clubs are available. This month, I am sharing the Card Kit of the month, the Small Die of the month, and the Glimmer Kit of the month. First, let's unbox the Spellbinders Card Kit Love Grows Here. The new kit for December comes in the same sturdy box, adorable, and right away you can see the dies that are included in this month's kit are two birds on a branch. So you get all of those little dies in the kit so that you can make that type of card. Also, there are instructions of where everything can go to make it make sense. You also get 10 cards and 10 envelopes. They are A2. You get a pack of peach kind of iridescent sequins. They add lots of shine. You get a tape roll and pop dots, and of course a 6x6 pattern paper pad. Some of the papers have little gold foil accents. There are plenty of versatile elements or pages, and then plenty of themed pages as well with those birds. For cardstock, you get a dark and a light pink. You also get a medium and a light blue. Then you get a bright yellow, a bright green, as well as a white and a brown. Those are all 8.5 by 11, as well as a mirror gold cardstock that is double-sided. And the die cuts this month, of course, are always one of my favorites. You get plenty of hearts, flowers, rainbows, cute little images, really pretty colors. Love this little mailbox that's so adorable. Again, some of them do have gold foiling to them, which is really nice. And there are a few sentiments like love you. This month, there are also chipboard frames. I like the different shapes of the frames and that some of them are stamped with gold foil sentiments. There are hearts, ovals, there's squares, and there's film strips. There's also a stamp set this month, again featuring those two cute little birds and tons of sentiments. And another one of my favorites from the card kits are the chipboard stickers. I love how easy these are to layer and to use on cards to really make them quick and easy. There are also some matte puffy sticker sentiments, lots of sentiments. There's flag shapes, there's just sentiment strip shapes, there's tiny little hearts, and so many options in there. Now I want to share a few ideas on using the supplies in this month's card kit. I always like to start out with the dies because I think they look the most complicated, or at least there's lots of little dies and little pieces. So I like to show everything that I cut out. That first die was the branch. I cut that out of the brown cardstock. I'm going to use some liquid glue and adhere it down. You can see that the branch stretches 4 inches wide. I have a matted piece of pattern paper on cardstock. The pattern paper is 4 by 5.25. So that branch is 4 inches wide, just something to remember when you're making your card. As for the birds, there are 2 birds. One is slightly larger than the other one, and there are different feathers for each bird. So there are 2 belly feathers, there are 2 wings, and there are 2 tail feathers. So I cut different colors of the belly feathers, but the wings and the tail feathers I cut out of the same color. And some of that has to do with how the dies were placed together. If they were placed together, like the 2 tail feathers, I just cut them out of one color, except for the belly feathers, which I thought had to be unique for each bird. Okay, so that's how those 3 pieces go together. Really easy. These teeny tiny little legs and feet, one can go behind the bird and one can go on top, and that will kind of make it look like one leg is on each side of the bird. And we're going to have those little feet resting on the branch. So I'm going to be using my Spellbinders Tool-in-One every once in a while. I did get the new white one because I love the way it looks. And I'll also be using this embellishment tool. I have a Studio Katia embellishment tool. It has a wax tip and then it has a pointed silver tip. And I like to use that more than I like to use tweezers. I know some of you are big fans of tweezers. more power to you if that helps you get these tiny little pieces together. I prefer the embellishment tool and then something sharp like the Spellbinders tool-in-one. Okay, so once you have the birds there, I did put little brown eyes in them. I think those circles are actually technically supposed to be flower centers, but you can use them as eyes. They're a little big, but it's okay. And then for the flowers, I did cut them out of pink. The brown is the centers, and then I cut those leaves out, and I am just adding those on to the branch in several different spots. Then I added a happy anniversary foam sticker, and that completes that card. It is much easier than I think the dies make it look. For this next card, we're gonna go even easier, and that means peeling off the backing of one of the chipboard frames. They are self-adhesive, and then I like to lay them on a piece of pattern paper that just coordinates really well, but isn't maybe the same color, and it just gives it a whole new look. So then you can fill that, or you can just add accents to it. I'm going to fill it with a chipboard sticker and then have a little chipboard sticker banner at the top. Did have to move my rainbow down a little bit because that banner was kind of getting into the rainbow's way there, but check that out. Just a couple of pieces of chipboard, some pattern paper, and really this card starts to come together very quickly. Love those daisies. What a sweet little piece of pattern paper. And then you just add some tape runner to the back of the pattern paper that's adhered behind the chipboard frame, and then add a chipboard sentiment that says "You are loved," and look at how quickly this card comes together, and it is super cute. Okay, for another quick card, we're going to use 2 chipboard frames and we're going to layer them on top of each other. Each one is going to be backed with its own piece of pattern paper. That's what's nice about the card kit, is everything coordinates well together. So the pattern papers, the chipboard, the die cuts, everything works really well together. And I, of course, just cut around that outside with some scissors, and you have a really cute blue heart with a different pattern backing it. And I just love the way that looks. It's such an easy thing to do, but it looks so fun. Okay, I'm going to put a little piece of pattern paper on an A2 piece of blue cardstock from the kit. I mentioned before, when I get kits, I usually cut down the cardstock to an A2 size, or I cut the 8.5 by 11 down in half, and then 1/2 I cut into 2 A2s so that I have one larger piece of paper and 2 smaller pieces of paper. So I always have something to either mat or back or die cut out of. Now I'm going to use some of those die cuts. These die cuts are phenomenal. They're great for layering. There's so many. You get 2 of each design, so you can make a ton of clusters on your cards and you'll still have plenty left over. I'm going to add a few sequins on some liquid glue to the flower centers just to add a little bit more shine, just to pop up the interest of this card a little bit more. With all the light colors, I felt like it was starting to get too muted and I didn't want it to not have that wow factor. So I think these sequins really do that. And I love the little foam sticker that says "a little hello" and then the stamped "loved" on the chipboard frame. Okay, I promised I would use the stamp set, so I am going to do that. I am going to use the main image, which are the 2 birds. I'm going to make sure that my sentiment fits underneath them, but I'm going to take that away because I'm going to heat emboss the little birds. I'm going to regular stamp the sentiment. So I did these little birds in gold. I love doing that with really detailed images like this, and I'll show you, it really comes out very beautifully. So those detailed images came out great. I just, when I was stamping, missed 2 of the little head feathers, so I used a Pentel sparkle pen to fill in those little dots of those head feathers, and then I stamped "You Make My Heart Sing" in black underneath. I'm going to mat this on some pattern paper. There's actually little birds on the pattern paper, and then I added a puffy sticker on top. Now let's take a look at Spellbinders Small Die of the Month and use it to make a card. The small die of the month actually includes several dies, so you get that pinked edge background, that's a rectangle, and then this rectangle sits in the middle and you can stitch in those little holes. And you also get this heart, which would fit right in there, and that is larger stitches. There are also a banner and several sentiments that you can die cut inside that banner. So let's start by die cutting some things. We're going to die cut that pinked background on a light pink cardstock. The medium pink cardstock is for the small stitching in the background. And I found another piece of pink from Spellbinders in my stash. I also cut out the Love You sentiment on the banner. I'm going to poke out the holes with my Spellbinders tool and one because I like to not have to deal with that while I'm stitching. I'm using some of this DMC gold thread. It's my first time using it. So the first time I used it for the background, I used a single thread and I'm just holding that end behind me until I tape it down or glue it down. And I'll show you exactly how I did it. I just did it diagonally across from each other. This heart, I doubled up the thread. I doubled up the thread, knotted it at the end, and now I'm going to pop that heart up on top of the background. I really like that thread doubled up. I think that looks fantastic. So I would recommend trying that first if you use that thread. For the Love You, I didn't want the foam squares to show through the die cut Love You, so I put one on each end and adhered that down. Once this was done, I'm realizing that this is much smaller than an A2 size. So I decided to use some liquid glue to adhere it down to an A2 piece of the pink cardstock. Once I had that in place, I started to realize I wanted a little bit more accents. So I grabbed some Spellbinders Color Essentials gems, the gold mix. I'm putting the larger gems in the center of the stitches on the heart, and then I'm using my embellishment tool to actually pick up the smallest, tiniest little gems. I was trying to pick them up, my nails were getting in the way, but if you slide it with the embellishment tool, you can pick it up and stick it down. I love that technique. It was so easy to do, and I love those gems on the gold stitching with the gold sentiment. This card makes me so happy. It's one of my favorites I've made recently. Now, let's take a look at Spellbinders Glimmer Kit of the month and use that to make a couple of cards. This month's Glimmer Kit has some really pretty hearts. There's both foil plates and dies in this set. So one of those banner sentiments is a die, the other two are foiled, and then the banner gets cut out. The leaves and flowers are both dies. There's a foiled heart that gets cut out with a die, a foiled scalloped heart that gets cut out with a die, and then that wreath is also foiled as well. This was not sent to me, but I had to have these colors. This is the satin pastel variety pack of foils. So you can see it's actually kind of translucent looking. So I foiled that heart and check it out. It's just so pretty. I can't even get over it. It's like a glistening foil rather than like a metallic foil. And I really like the way it turned out. Don't worry about that little bit of overfoiling because you're just gonna die cut that heart out anyway. Here is the kind of lilac color with the foiled Happy Valentine's Day. There's also kind of this peach corally color that I did for the floral frame. And then I did some pink on pink cardstock with the scalloped heart. And as I said, you can cut out that scalloped heart, you can cut out the solid heart, you can layer them on top of each other and place them right on that floral heart background, and then die cut the sentiment as well. So I did also a whole range of blues. And so now I'm going to die cut everything out. I'm going to die cut out the banner sentiment that's foiled, the solid heart, and the scalloped heart that were both foiled. So there's all dies for that as well. So I adhered down the floral heart to some A2 white cardstock. Then I'm going to adhere down the scalloped heart. Then I'm going to layer on top of it the solid heart, which I did on the blue cardstock as well. So I'm mixing and matching blue cardstock and white cardstock together. And the sentiment that I die cut says, "Love you always." This is a really sweet, simple card. It has a wow factor because of that foiling. And I love how you can layer these on top of each other. Okay, for the pink card, I did use that coral floral heart background, cut it down and matted it on some pink cardstock, then used the foiling on the pink for the scallop, the foiling on white for the heart, and now I'm going to use that die cut sentiment. I'm going to place it on top of another banner that is solid of pink cardstock to make kind of a shadow so that that sending hugs really stands out and you won't see the pop dots when I put them behind that sentiment. I put 3 on there this time. I'm also going to use the dies that cut out flowers. There's 2 different sizes of flowers. I'm going to use the little flowers as centers for the larger flowers, and then I'm going to use some of those gems that I used earlier in the video as actual flower centers to each of the 3 flowers that I'm going to put on here. And I'm going to pop these up on the pop dots that were inside the card kit this month. Those are really fun to use. I did also cut out leaves out of the gold mirror cardstock. I had to trim off the stem of the leaves because the flowers are so tiny that even those tiny little square pop dots don't leave a lot of room to tuck things behind. And then last but not least, I did add some gems to some of the foiled flowers just as another accent. You don't really need it with the foiling, but I think it really kind of helps everything stand out. I love making cards with hearts and flowers, so I really enjoyed this month's card kit, small die, and glimmer kit. But I'd love to hear what your favorite was this month. Let me know in the comments below. Stick around and check out this video, which YouTube thinks you might like. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Never mind. It's all good. Am I in focus? I think I am very thirsty. So we have to wrap this up because I'm like dry mouth.